In 2017, populism was in full flow around the world, but the election of French President Emmanuel Macron seemed to signal its resounding defeat, at least in France. But 5 years on, as the country heads to the polls once again, the French are fed up. Normally, this despondency spells defeat for sitting presidents, but Macron is leading in all the polls. So why are the French so miserable? It's market day in Auxerre, a town about 200 kilometers southeast of Paris. Auxerre is a typical provincial city in France, but is also a bellwether. It's backed the winner in every French presidential race for 40 years. And in 2022, there's only one victor in sight.
Monsieur Macron.
Le président Macron.
In 2017, Emmanuel Macron swept to power with a party that was little more than a year old. At 39, he was the youngest president in French history. He promised to unite the country and propose sweeping reforms. His term in office has been turbulent, rocked by national and international events. But on Macron's watch, France has also become more entrepreneurial and business-friendly. Incomes have risen and unemployment has dropped. Faced with the pandemic, his stimulus package helped deliver the strongest economic growth since the late 1960s, ensuring a quick recovery to pre-pandemic levels. No surprise then that Macron's been odds-on to return to power since The Economist began to forecast this year's election. You can see our latest prediction by clicking on the link. But in Auxerre, the market shoppers don't exactly seem overjoyed at the prospect.
Je pense que c'est difficile de se dire qu'il va y avoir du changement.
L'état de la France, on va dire, ça pourrait être mieux.
Je pense qu'elle s'écroule de l'intérieur comme un souffle.
Gallic grumpiness may not seem a surprise. Some argue pessimism is part of the French psyche. There's even a French word for it. With the war in Ukraine, the cost of living post-pandemic, and rising fuel prices, perhaps there is reason for much of the rich world to feel gloomy right now. But for the French, this discontent runs deeper. A recent survey found that 3/4 of them thought France was in decline. For market traders like farmer Denis Chatelain, business is good, but he's still fed up, and it's the president who bears the brunt of his anger.
Non, le gouvernement Macron, il nous représente pas du tout. Il en a rien à foutre de nous.
His farm on the outskirts of Auxerre is only a 2-hour drive from Paris, but to Denis, it's a world away from the seat of the French presidency. As he sees it, Macron's policies have really been about looking after business leaders and shareholders.
Lui, il a l'habitude. Ah ben, on va couler, hein. Les riches vont amplifier leurs bénéfices et ça va faire couler la France.
It's not unusual for the French to blame their woes on whoever is president. It comes with the territory for leaders who get to exercise the huge power that is bestowed on that office. But the mood in Auxerre points to a sense of disconnection that is not just political. Auxerre is in the sparsely populated band of France known as the Diagonale du Vide, or empty diagonal. Like many mid-sized French towns, it suffers from industrial decline, and with no fast train to Paris, its population is effectively cut off from the job opportunities in France's big urban centres. It was in places like Auxerre, where people rely on their cars, that the Gilets jaunes or yellow vest movement sprung from in 2018. Originally a protest against the tax rise on petrol and diesel that transformed into a wider anti-government rebellion, today the movement has somewhat dissipated, but many former members are still taking to the street to air other grievances. It's this group's 35th weekly protest in a row, this time against France's COVID restrictions. In an effort to get more people vaccinated, Macron banned many employees in customer-facing roles from working unless they were jabbed, a policy which angered many. As with immigration and taxation, it's another issue that has been taken up with relish by France's populist politicians, deepening the divide in French society. More than 50% of voters say they'd vote for a populist candidate in the first round of the election. Such is the support for populist parties that two different hard-right candidates have helped define this year's election. Marine Le Pen, who faced Macron in the second round in 2017, and newcomer Eric Zemmour, a former journalist who was recently convicted for inciting racial hatred.
Faire la place, déjà, c'est facile. Je pense que c'est une bonne idée.
Emmanuel Bertrand is Zemmour's local coordinator in the region.
On va frapper à la porte avec le portail noir là.
Today, he and his team are door-knocking in Chablis, a town 20 kilometers outside of Auxerre.
Pour moi, l'état de la France, je considère qu'il y a toute une série de problèmes. Et donc, c'est pour ça que je soutiens M. Zemmour, parce que je pense qu'il est actuellement sur l'échiquier politique le seul candidat qui porte une vision de la France pour les Français, et pas simplement une vision mondialiste de ce que doit être notre pays.
Zemmour set up the Reconquest Party just a few months ago with a promise to slash immigration and taxes. It's a blend that initially proved potent on the doorstep, tapping into a nostalgic idea of France.
Très bien. Au revoir.
Even if it's now started to go a little flat. Zemmour, and to a greater extent Le Pen's, popularity points to the depth of the geographical divide in France, already apparent 5 years ago. In the second round of the 2017 election, Auxerre voted for Macron. But the further away from the city you go, the higher the vote for Le Pen. This same dynamic can be seen around urban centres throughout the country. In 2022, Auxerre offers another, less scientific way of reading the state of the nation.
On a un rayon particulier qui est un rayon d'actualité, qui là, effectivement, peut être un petit peu le thermomètre. Madame, bonjour. Les exemples plus récents, c'est le livre de Zemmour, vendu beaucoup. Donc il y a beaucoup de livres d'actualité comme ça qui sont là pour marquer un temps. À mon avis,
Grégoire Courtois runs an independent bookshop in Auxerre. And in the past few years, he's noticed a town that's becoming increasingly disillusioned.
Aujourd'hui, l'échiquier politique auxerrois, je pense qu'il est très morcelé. Il est très compliqué. Il reflète un petit peu l'état de la France. Une gauche qui est complètement amorphe. On a une droite qui n'arrive pas à trouver sa place et qui court après l'extrême droite.
Macron came to power at the head of a centrist movement that took widespread support from the Republicans and the Socialists, the established parties of the mainstream right and left.
D'accord, oui, aucun problème, on est là.
Neither has fully recovered.
Donc je pense que Macron, lui, il est le produit en fait de l'aboutissement de cette histoire d'affaissement de la représentativité, d'écroulement des différents partis qui n'ont pas su répondre aux attentes d'un peuple qui attendait un sauveur, qui attendait un changement radical de leur vie.
In a recent survey, 30% of those who are considering voting for Macron say it's by default rather than choice, as no other candidate convinces them. Under the cover of darkness, Auxerre's elusive Macron supporters are out postering. If he does win again, it would be a symbolic moment, the first French president for 20 years to win a second term. And it would put him in good stead to introduce new reforms. But with a fed-up population unimpressed by its president, there may be questions over the strength of his mandate. This could spell trouble when the political mood of the French public turns even gloomier. For Macron, however hard-fought this election becomes, winning it may prove to be the easy part.
If you'd like to see more about our forecast for the 2022 French election, click the link. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe.